Welcome to the Startup Competitors Podcast, where we talk with early-stage entrepreneurs to understand what information they use to inform product roadmap, strategy, and market differentiation.
Welcome to the Startup Competitors Podcast. Today we have Christine McDonnell, who is the co-founder and CEO of Codelicious. Christine, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
All right, let's start with a pitch for Codelicious.
Sure. So at Codelicious, we are building confidence in educators and students in the classroom by providing instant access to full semester foundational skills building computer science curriculum, grades 3 through 8, that any educator can teach.
And if I'm an educator, what does that actually look like?
So what that looks like is our curriculum is delivered through a learning management system. So we interface with the educator's learning management system, and we build it according to the instructional instance that they want to teach computer science. So they tell us how they want to bring it into the classroom, and we customize the way the curriculum and lesson plans and project-based learning activities are organized for them to meet the educational standards that they are looking to achieve.
Do you integrate with LMSs, or do you just upload the content that you have into an existing LMS?
Good question. So we actually API into the back end of the learning management system. We, as a default, we build our curriculum out in a learning management system called Canvas. It allows us to just kind of play around a little bit, but we are LMS agnostic.
Nice. I remember back in the day, I did a little bit with LMSs, and it was not fun to integrate with them back then.
They're better now.
Okay, good. All right. And then for the student, what's that experience look like?
Yeah, for the student, it's very engaging. We build the curriculum in a project-based learning environment, and we deliver lesson plans and activities to engage students of all learning styles. So more often than not, coding is synonymous with computer science, and coding is certainly foundational. But computer science is much more than coding. And when you look at the technology jobs that are available today, about a third of them require mastery of coding, but all of them require an understanding of computer science. So when we build our curriculum it's educator facing, but when we build it to encompass projects to engage students, we have projects that will engage the visual learner, the auditory learner, the kinesthetic learner. We have behind the computer, we have hardware, unplugged, digital citizenship. So we really create that environment so that educators can focus on how to engage the students as opposed to necessarily what to teach them, because the lesson plans are all there and the tools are there, and the educator can focus on how to deliver that outcome to the students that they're looking for.
And because I'm building a model of your business in my head to hopefully help me ask better questions. When you're selling Codelicious, are you selling to the individual educator? Or are you selling to a school system? What does that look like for you? Typically,
it is to the school system, meant to be delivered by the educator in the classroom.
Okay.
So we can do, more often than not, it'll start off with a pilot at a school in which the principal / educator / headmaster, whoever is kind of the lead in that thought process or maybe on the forefront of accelerating computer science in the classroom, they will have engaged with us and felt the opportunity to deliver computer science using Codelicious curriculum. And then outside of that, we can move to kind of an enterprise-wide solution for a district or a consortium of private schools or charter schools, however the adoption model might look.
And then current status of the company, any vanity metrics you can share to help paint a picture of where you are on the journey. So that could be number of school systems, number of students, number of classes, anything, revenue, employees, anything you're willing to share.
Yeah, sure. So we are on the scale-up side. So we closed our seed round of funding last summer, raised just under $1 million.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's very exciting. We've begun to grow our personnel status. So we are 5, almost 7 right now, and growing. And in that, we're outreaching kind of nationwide to schools. So we started here in Indiana around December timeframe. With the funding and ramp up of our staff, we were actually able to create a nationwide campaign that has taken on. Our first implementation outside of Indiana was in Colorado. It's really kind of a fun opportunity for us, and we've just been able to grow from there.
Awesome. So when you think of competitors in the space, who comes to mind?
It's a very good question. When we think of competitors, we think more of kind of methodologies for teaching computer science and then the approach that they take. So for example, educators can build their own curriculum given a certain amount of time. And many of them are very used to building things that they bring into the classroom. However, computer science presents a different challenge. Many of them have not had experience in the subject of computer science, maybe in their pre-service training or in what they're doing in the classroom right now. So professional development becomes a challenge. And then you have the other challenge when you're developing it kind of individually, which is twofold. One is technology changes. And so as you're building that curriculum, say, unlike an English or a math curriculum, computer science is very much impacted, just like your cell phone updates way more often than you
Right.
like. Same thing with developer environments in computer science. So there's a need there to continuously refresh, which is challenging even after you built the curriculum. And then secondly, when school districts are looking to kind of scale across the district, kind of challenges come in if there's educator turnover, particularly educator who had developed the curriculum, and or then kind of getting a common baseline of things that are instructed across the school district. So there is always that option to build it locally, and we encourage educators who have that staffing. There's certainly a lot of content out there that's available to build a curriculum. So that is one option that there is for accelerating computer science into the classroom. There is another option of just kind of pulling down freeware that's out there, different activity-based. It becomes more of an exploratory solution. So if you're just trying to kind of introduce students to what is computer science, deliver some familiarity, there are a lot of choices for that are out there. But when it comes to delivering full semester, comprehensive skills building curriculum that kind of picks up after that exploratory phase and then foundationally takes students through that journey that prepares them for, say, that AP computer science class in high school, or that technology pathway, or the web design pathway. That type of foundational curriculum, which is education standards compliant, student outcomes driven, kind of built upon deliverance from an educator in the classroom, doesn't exactly exist today, and that's the void that we fill.
A couple of questions that occur to me off of that. So the first one is you'd open that by saying there are different methodologies for teaching computer science. Sure. What are some of those?
So we talk about kind of a static learning versus an engaged learning model. Codelicious chooses to do the engaged learning model. A static model might be a student in front of a computer. They have an activity, and when they're finished, the computer tells them if they've done something correctly, and then they get the next activity. So kind of a self-paced, if you will, independent learning, but kind of a self-paced learning, but very, very static. Ours is an engaged student model, which has meant that it is meant to be delivered by the educator in the classroom. So problem solving and analytics that are part and parcel to the core principles of computer science are a collaborative sport. When you look at even professionals today, the idea of a professional sitting in the basement always coding is not really true. There are meetups for adults. When you can't solve a problem, you go to a community event and you see who's been there before. We believe that that kind of problem solving, perseverance, kind of understanding of how there's a concept that we teach called successful failure. In computer science, it's very rare that anything works the first time. But the only failure is not learning from why it's not working the first time. So successful failure is, it's okay if it doesn't work. Let's just don't repeat that same mistake. That's perseverance, that's problem solving. And for elementary and middle school students, which is where we focus, it is a greater opportunity to build those skills in a collaborative environment in the classroom. So we build our curriculum to be that engaged learning model meant to deliver those foundational skills to students by an educator. The projects can be independent. The project can be group projects, but that problem-solving learning is meant to be in the classroom.
And does the curriculum build over, and I'm sure it's probably different from school system to school system, but does it build over multiple years? So if you're in a system that, just like math builds year after year, is it the same thing here?
Yes. So there's two answers to your question. So depending on how the school system wants to integrate it, so which you correctly surmised on your first part. But from our curriculum, yes, that is what it does. So we actually start in third grade because we pick up where we're done, where the kind of that exploratory learning has been achieved. And now we're jumping into foundational skills building building, which require a certain level of reading and a certain level of math, which typically comes in third grade. And so we can take them from third grade up to that sort of introductory level, freshman level high school in that progressively challenging foundational skills building mode. In many states, Indiana included, there are progressively challenging education standards now in the space of computer science. Virginia is the same. About 9 states that have already kind of implemented what those educational standards and student outcomes look like. And our curriculum takes educators and students through that journey, sort of progressively building those skills.
Nice. Homeschool option?
We are working on that. That is a great question. So yes, we have begun partnering with groups kind of locally to figure out how to help that. So the curriculum itself is, again, meant to be delivered in a group-like setting. And so we have been looking for opportunities in which we can aid in that. We've had a lot of requests from kind of the homeschool parents. This is one of those things which, may or may not be something that they want to teach by themselves at home. And even if they do, there is that aspect of collaborative problem solving. So yes, actually this fall, we did a pilot. Monon Community Center up in Carmel had a pilot for homeschools, of which they were looking for someone to deliver computer science curriculum. So we've kind of begun that journey, kind of begun to navigate that environment, and are looking for ways to kind of help grow that, because this is one of those curriculum topics that homeschool parents have asked for quite a bit.
Your background before this, education background, computer science background, like all the above. I'd love to hear your background and how you landed here.
So my undergraduates are electrical engineering and computer science.
Yeah.
So I obtained them from Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee. And then I worked for a chemical company for about 10 or 12 years. The latter part of that, I earned my MBA from University of Michigan, Ross School of Business. Then I moved on. I began working, after I got my MBA, I began working for McKinsey & Company, the consulting firm.
Heard of them.
And as part of that work, one of our pro bono projects was we were offering how to help high growth technology ventures spin up their businesses faster. And I just got fascinated in that space. And so after about 4 years with McKinsey, I struck out on my own consulting practice, which is when I got in touch with the Nashville Chamber and worked on the Nashville Entrepreneur Center that you're familiar with. But as I was growing that practice, we then moved here to Indiana. My husband's job brought him here. I brought my practice, continued to work with high growth technology ventures. And as part of getting my kids engaged in the school system up here, I encouraged them to all volunteer to do some after school activity at their new school. And they all chose robotics. So the phone call came from the robotics champion mentor that says, "You have 3 children in this program and we need a coach."
Welcome aboard.
Right up my alley. And I said, great, I love this. And so I became it was like the overall kind of coding coach. We did Vex Robotics.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of goodness in that.
I was just a judge at the event a couple of weeks ago.
It is one of my favorite things. My kids are in high school now and have developed different interests, if you will, but I loved our years in Vex. Got very fortunate. The very first year, the team I was coaching, one state qualified for Worlds. We went down to Kentucky. You've been to Worlds. This is an amazing experience for these kids. Like, it doesn't matter where you're from, really, or even how great your robot is. That is the rock star, right, tournament for this space. And you see these kids, and they're celebrated for the technology that they've achieved. And they're engaged, like I said, treated like rock stars at this event. And that first year, I came away saying, I wish I could help more kids feel this way about computer science. And then I met my business partner and kind of tossing around ideas. And he had this idea for an after-school type of computer science, a little bit like Kumon or Huntington, kind of a space there. And I said, oh, okay. I said, here's the thing. I believe, like with all of this that I've done, I believe I can get this business over the goal line. But let's figure out what exactly that business model is. So that fall, Elevate Ventures, so Kelly Schwedlin and Joe Albano launched the Indy Startup Challenge.
Yeah, I remember that.
So we got in, Codelicious got in, and as part of that, we were doing hundreds of client interviews, right? And for us, we were interviewing parents. Like, would you enroll your children in an after-school program? And let's just say 99% said yes. Like, we love it. It's not here. But the 1% said, I love the value proposition that you're offering, but why do I have to pay for it? Why is it not in the school day for my students? Why is it not core? And that 1% really resonated with me. And I began thinking about, here we have all of this curriculum that we had built for this after school setting. And it was solid. It was education standards compliant before Indiana had their education standards, the CSTA National Education Standards. We had written it for. We were good to go. These kids were going to be solid. And that statement just kept running through my mind. Why is it not in the school day? And I said, yes, why is it not? So then we began interviewing schools, and we began kind of understanding the challenges for bringing it in the school day. And more often than not, they cited 3 challenges. So one was just skill set, right? It was around educator kind of confidence, if you will. They hadn't gotten it in pre-service training. Can I teach it in the classroom? So one was skill set. The next was lesson plans. There's loads of free content out there. But when you want to build a curriculum that takes students foundationally through these grade level outcomes that they have to get through, it's hard. It's hard to build. So the lack of foundations, and then, lack of lesson plans. And then the third was just, how do I bring it into the school day? As elementary, middle school educators, we are teaching life skills, and we are teaching many core subjects. How do we bring this in the school day? And so I said, we got this. Like, we wrote it so that volunteers could teach computer science in an after-school setting. Educators are very logical thinkers. If you can write a well-written essay, you have to plan the essay, outline the essay, you write it, you check for verb tense, you edit it. If you can write a well-written essay or term paper, this is the logic that comes into computer science. It's problem solving and analytics in a different way. And so we had written this curriculum, and I said, I know we can get this in front of any educator and they will feel confident. Like we will break down that barrier. So the skill set challenge we had taken under our wing, this lack of resources, specifically citing lesson plans, because that's the way we built this out. It was literally going to meet, over the course of a semester, and they were going to have achieved all these outcomes by the end of the semester. Then here's where the extra excitement comes in. So then these educators were like, how do I bring it into the school day? This canned curriculum is really hard to bring into the school day. And we've been working on this technology that allowed us to kind of configure these lesson plans to reflect different instructional sessions. So we could do 1 hour a week for 20 weeks. We could do a 1 week spring break camp. We could do kind of 90-minute blocks over the summer. So we had this technology that was automating how we were pulling together this curriculum. And I got to talking to educators saying, well, what time would you have? Well, I've got one 90-minute resource block once a week, full semester. I can literally deliver to you a curriculum that when you open it up is 90 minutes worth of instruction. This other educator says, I've got 2 30-minute pieces of my 3rd grade science class that I want to teach computer science. I'm like, we can do this. When you open it up, you'll have 30 minutes worth of lesson plans that you can teach to your students. And then there were those who were ready to deliver it in full semester. And I said, we can solve this question or help them think through how to bring it into the school day, because we're not a canned curriculum. We have this technology that allows us to build it the way they want it. And so in January 2017, we pivoted from that brick and mortar after school model to this SaaS curriculum licensing model, which is all of this. We write it so any educator can teach it. The lesson plans and everything that they need are in there. And then we have this patent pending technology, which allows us to pull from this huge library of curriculum that we've developed and build this semester's worth of instruction that these educators are looking for, deliver it to them through this very kind of interactive source, which is a learning management system, which 85% of schools already have a learning management system. And if they don't, we just extend our license to them because it's the best way to deliver this multifaceted curriculum and enable them to be successful.
You are so excited. when you talk about this. It makes me smile. I wish everybody was that excited. It's awesome.
I wake up every day so happy to share with educators the fact that this is not a frightening event. And we now have many educators kind of in our system who can speak to that as well. We have student outcomes. I remember our very first adoption was in a summer school setting. So again, flexibility. They didn't know how to bring it into the school day, so they wanted to run it in summer school. Not a problem. So we built the curriculum for them, and their educator was a history teacher who's going to teach computer science. And she had no fear, like she was ready. We got to observe this summer school session. And you can probably imagine, this is middle schoolers. I'd be highly confident most of their parents said, you will take this. They probably hadn't opted in to take computer science over the summer. There might have been a couple of them. So you kind of see them coming in, middle school or summer school, earbuds in the ear, I don't know, cap pulled down. You can envision your great kids, just this is middle school, summer school opportunity. And I said, wow, this is a great opportunity for me to observe how this is going to work. The educator was amazing. And about halfway through that first summer school day, all of a sudden you see the earbuds. I'm watching the back row sitters, right? All of a sudden you see because I was a back row sitter. I know what that looks like. So you see the earbuds coming out. You see them kind of glancing at their neighbor. You start seeing them kind of point over saying, hey, how did you do that kind of thing? And all of a sudden the whole class is engaged. I get goosebumps when I tell this story because to me, I knew we had it, right? Like when you can build a curriculum that this educator who wanted to teach it, right? She wanted to teach it, just didn't have the computer science background. She was being successful and confident.
Right.
We had reached these middle school students in summer school to be engaged in it.
Arguably the most difficult audience in education to reach.
I've been there. I have middle school students. Like this is, I bow down to educators in this space because it is very challenging. And I came away with this going, this is good. Like we there's always room for improvement when we didn't rest on anything. But I said, okay, this is a good thing. We can scale this. We can reach more. And now that fall, that was summer of 2017. That fall, states began making different types of announcements, accelerating computer science into the classroom. So there were mandates, right, and timelines. There was funding tied to outcomes related to computer science. So here we are with this curriculum that's good. And then this tailwind in the marketplace, which is it's evolving to a core concept. And there are now, last year, there were only 5 states accelerating it into the classroom. Now there are 9. Another 22 are done with their computer science education standards, figuring out how to bring it into the classroom. Another 11 behind that are now developing their standards. So here we are with this option, which is once you've exhausted kind of the exploratory, which is great, kind of get to know, build familiarity, and are ready to launch into these foundational skills, really so that we're preparing students for the workforce and that thinking process and that confidence in leveraging computer science in everything that it is, we're ready and we're there. And these are the schools that we're picking up. These are the schools that we're running with.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
This episode is brought to you by Full Stack PEO. Most founders start companies because they figured out a better way to solve a problem or serve a need, not because they love tracking payroll, filling out compliance forms, and explaining employee benefits packages. And yet, all that stuff still has to be done. That's why there's Full Stack PEO. Full Stack PEO specializes in turnkey HR for emerging companies, not just those core services, but advice and expertise that help founders maximize employee potential. Curious? Find out more at fullstackpeo.com.
So you've been at this for 2.5 years?
So we're going into our 3rd year. We probably had 2 years behind that, kind of building out the curriculum for the after school model. But yeah, in this particular one, January 2017 was the origin.
January 2017. Nice. So you were involved in the And they only ran it once, right? Joe and Kelly.
Right. Yeah.
What was it called?
It was called the Indy Startup Challenge.
Indy Startup Challenge, which
changed our trajectory.
Only went once. So you started there. I'd love to know, what are some of the other either programs or organizations that you've engaged with over the last couple of years that have kind of helped on that trajectory?
That is a great question, because I really do believe that this ecosystem that we have here in the state of Indiana is so sort of favorable for startup and building and launching. And there are so many that have kind of propelled us along the way. So shortly after that, we got invited to pitch at the Indiana Women's Conference. And I got connected with Kristen Cooper of the Startup Ladies, because she was involved in the sort of prep work for that. And then I joined her group, like her ability to connect startups in this space with advisors and people who have been down this track, whether it's a functional experience or whether it's a corporate experience. I just found that interaction to be so encouraging and so eye-opening at many levels. And so we connected with her group. So one of the other organizations is Women in High Tech, where, again, I've met a lot of other female founders and CEOs, and just learning from their journeys as well. Groups like that around Indianapolis. And then we got accepted. Well, we won a Mira Award last April.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It was very humbling and very exciting at the same time. A few things kind of happened in cadence with that. We won the Mira Award. We had been accepted into the G-Beta Accelerator, the inaugural cohort. And so we went through that, which was just a great
talk about stacking the deck if you're G-Beta.
So it was a very rigorous focus kind of on the business, kind of while you're growing the business. And then at that same time, we had begun to raise kind of our round of seed funding, and then eventually closed that last summer. So kind of the series of those events and connections, and it feels a little bit kind of serendipitous, but at the end of the day, it's just a choice of decisions. It's never the right time to jump into an accelerator or an incubator when you're growing the business, because there's so much to do. But we kind of took the opportunities as they came and connected with these other great organizations, and have really been excited for all that we've been able to learn.
So I don't know if there's a question here so much as a statement. So humor me, because I'm interested in your take on this. So listening to you talk about this, and particularly based on your background, like, this is not something that you clearly were positioned to do and like had a passion to do, and it's been your lifelong dream to do that. Like, does that make sense? Like, this is not something that like your whole career has led up to here, and this is the obvious next step. This is like, you stumbled across what appeared to be an amazing market opportunity that nobody had solved, and have kind of like, jumped on it and been pulled along with some of that success. Is all that true? Does that all make sense?
It's funny that you say that, because I often kind of reflect on how did I get here? And it's just, perhaps you're right. It's just a series of decisions at the right time, right? I worked for a chemical company for 12 years, but maybe 6 of them were in engineering. And then I moved into sales, and then I moved into business management, and then I got my MBA. Yeah. And then I became a consultant, and then I had my own practice. And then through that practice, I worked with a lot of high growth technology ventures that I had been advising, and like really became ingrained in that. And I think it's timing. So again, like when we had moved here, it was traumatic. My kids were in middle school, and seeing how kind of this robotics re-energized them in the community. And then again, just thinking, I love my consulting practice, but what else could I do? And then the opportunity came along. So you're absolutely right in that as an 8-year-old, I wasn't dreaming of a startup company to be in the ed tech space. Right. In fact, I don't know that anybody necessarily dreams of being in the ed tech space. It's a little hard, right? It's a little hard. And quite frankly, there's a lot of people who will tell you don't do it.
Yeah. Don't sell to schools.
That's right. There's a lot of people.
Don't sell to governments.
That's right.
Yeah.
They'll be like, what? Are you kidding me? Oh, and by the way, there's a lot of freeware out there in the computer science space. Who's going to pay for your stuff? And it just, it was a conviction. It was a belief. I knew what wasn't in the schools. My technology background said, I know how we can do this to engage children and help educators. And it's just a little bit of confidence and persistence and perseverance that says, no, there's a gap here. And now we do have people coming up and saying, wow, you know, on the surface, it looked like everything in the computer science world was covered. And yet you have found this. And now that whole value proposition is coming through as educators are having to meet these educational standards. So to your point, yeah, I mean, as an 8-year-old, I'm not sure I would have envisioned myself here.
Biggest lesson learned in the last couple of years? Or lessons, if one or two stand out?
There's at least one, which is, okay, so I'll give you two. First of all, if you're going to start a company, make sure it's something you love. It is every day, 24/7, challenging on many fronts, right? Family life, work life, all that kind of stuff. Just make sure it's something you love. Life's too short to grow a company if you're not all in. And then the second thing is believe in yourself. Listen to what other people are telling you. Like every 1,000 conversations to raise capital, 999 no's. But every no has a nugget of something in it that enabled us to continue to make our business better. But, 999 no's can get a little trying on the vision. But believe, do your homework, understand the market, understand the numbers, but believe. We're in a space that nobody has done this before. And it's in a market that is not traditionally very quick on the adoption. Yeah. And so our success is really not only good for a startup, but it's crazy good for an ed tech company. And it really is just understanding what we could provide and not giving up.
What are you learning right now that you think is positioning you for success in the next 6 to 24 months?
Well, I will tell you. So one of the things I'm most excited about is we have been, I don't know if this is the question you were answering, but it's the answer I'm going to give. So we had been leveraging a certain kind of sales model, and we were doing great. Like it was not a problem. But November of last year, I said, it's just not going fast enough, right? Like there's more that we should be doing out there. And what if I do more of what I'm doing today, I'm just going to get the same results. So schools kind of go on holiday in November. So I set my team up at kind of around Thanksgiving time, and I said, here's the thing. Over the holidays, we're going to gut this sales process, and we're going to revisit how we're doing, the message that we're sending, how we're reaching out to schools, what that pathway looks like, how we're qualifying leads. And so we did that. We took like 6 weeks over the holidays and because it was shut down to re-gut that. And then in January, after schools had started back up, we launched this new approach to sales, which is going gangbusters. So there's two sides to that story. One is I had to pause and I had to spend some money that I hadn't told my investors I was going to spend because I was blowing up our sales process. And I just wasn't happy with where it's going. So I told my board, I have a solid board. They're very results driven, but they're also kind of believe in the founder. And I said, I really want to do this. I think it's going to change our trajectory. We come in, we blow it up, come in January, we're starting. My board meeting after the holidays was like 2 weeks into the year. They say, so how's your pipeline? Like, where's the bottlenecks? And I had to say, well, they're not really at the bottlenecks just yet, but I guarantee you this new process is going to work. And literally 2 weeks later, I had to bring on, more salespeople. My next board kind of letter that went out was, it's working, and this is how it's working, and this is what it looks like. And so so literally kind of an 8 week, kind of 10 week lump there where, in a SaaS company, there are core SaaS metrics that are recurring, and it's nice to see them recurring and growing. And I took a hiatus in there to say, I actually think we could do this better. And the good news is my board encouraged that, and now the data is coming through pretty good.
I mean, no entrepreneur ever has been satisfied with how quickly their sales are going. So if you had to rattle off the top 2 to 5 things that you touched through that process that you felt were pivotal. I heard messaging was one of them in there. What else? Like, you don't have to break down the whole thing, but what were some of the key things that you guys tweaked or touched as part of that process?
Yeah. So first was messaging for sure. So what we had learned over kind of that last year and a half was exactly what was resonating with educators and what was getting us a response. So we gutted all of our literature, all of our email campaigns, all of our inbound kind of content hubs, and we kind of restructured them based on this messaging process. And then we had learned a lot from our metrics about how frequent educators were interacting with the information that we were sending out, which isn't frequent. And we were sending out a lot, which means that they're busy. So what they really want is kind of concentrated, targeted information. So one was the messaging and how we were getting them to access what we were sending. And then the other was the depth of what we were sending. Because when they access the information, they want to dig in because they have only so much time. And so we kind of restructured that frequency. Then the call outreach, right? So by the time kind of revisited that buyer's journey, and then kind of readjusted that in-person contact of when we would reach out to them. And that whole sequencing of that has really created this wonderful opportunity for us. So in our content hubs, because our information is deeper and richer, we are getting crazy hits on our MQLs, right? So we're just, that just exploded over the holidays. And on our direct outreach, whether it comes from a trade show or from some leads that we have, the structured approach that we're kind of working with our school systems, trying to understand, giving them opportunities to respond back to us as to where they are in this journey so that we can help advise them. Even if they want to build their own curriculum, we will send them a curriculum building checklist. Like, here, please, hopefully this will help you navigate it, because there's a lot of sources to find out there. So we've really tried to create this experience with Codelicious, which is, look, we want to help you accelerate computer science into the classroom. If you need what we offer, that's great. It's really good. If not, help us understand where your pain points are. We will try to help you kind of funnel that journey.
Nice. That's great. Thank you. All right. If people would like to learn more or get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Our website's great, codelicious.com. All of our contact information is on there. I am C. McDonnell at codelicious.com. Happy to respond to any email that comes our way.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This is great.
Thank you. Had a lot of fun.
If you're thinking of launching a SaaS product, Startup Competitors can provide data on your closest competitors, survey potential users, or provide other product validation services. Learn more at startupcompetitors.com.